They said I changed. It's often spoken with a hint of judgment, a sense of loss. But what if this change isn't a betrayal? What if it's a homecoming? We are complex beings, constantly evolving, shedding old layers and stepping into new versions of ourselves. This process can be unsettling for those around us. They may not recognize the person staring back at them in the mirror, but that's okay, because this journey isn't about them, it's about you. Transformation isn't always a linear path. It's messy, unpredictable, and often painful. It's about confronting the parts of ourselves we've hidden away. It's about facing our shadows and embracing our light. This is a journey of self-discovery, of unraveling, of coming home to ourselves, and it's a journey we all deserve to take. From a young age, we are taught to fit in, to follow the rules, to please others. We learn to silence our own voices, to dim our own light, to shrink ourselves to fit into boxes that were never meant for us. We become masters of disguise, wearing masks of conformity and acceptance. We smile when we're hurting, say yes when we mean no, and give until we're empty. But the weight of these expectations becomes heavy. It suffocates our spirits, stifles our creativity, and disconnects us from our true selves. But deep down, a tiny voice whispers. It reminds us that we are worthy of love and belonging just as we are. It becomes a guiding force, leading us back to ourselves, back to our truth, back to our power. The desire for authenticity is a universal longing. It's a yearning to live in alignment with our values, to express ourselves freely, and to show up in the world as our most genuine selves. This longing is often buried beneath layers of fear and self-doubt. We may fear rejection, judgment, or even success. We may doubt our own worthiness, our own abilities, our own right to claim our space in the world. But the truth is, we are all worthy, we are all capable, and we are all deserving of a life filled with purpose, passion, and authenticity. When we embrace our true selves, we give others permission to do the same. The world is waiting for you. I used to be a master at blending in. I knew all the right things to say, the appropriate gestures to make, the perfect mask to wear for every occasion. My life was a carefully curated performance designed to please those around me. I craved approval like oxygen, and I'd contort myself into any shape to get it. But what I didn't realize then was that true connection doesn't require contortion. It flourishes in the presence of authenticity, in the vulnerability of being truly seen and known. I was so busy trying to be what I thought others wanted that I lost sight of who I truly was. The constant need to please left me feeling drained and depleted. I spent years shrinking myself to fit into spaces that were never designed for me. I silenced my voice, suppressed my dreams, and dimmed my light, all in an attempt to avoid making waves or ruffling feathers. I believed that the smaller I made myself, the less likely I was to be rejected or abandoned. I became a chameleon, changing my colors to blend in with my surroundings. But beneath the surface, a quiet rebellion was brewing. A deep knowing that I was destined for more than a life lived in the shadows. I yearned for the freedom to express myself authentically, to speak my truth without fear of judgment. But the fear of rejection kept me trapped in a cage of my own making. The shift began subtly, like a whisper in the wind, a growing discontent, a flicker of defiance, a quiet questioning of the life I had built. I started to notice the moments when I betrayed myself, the times when I said yes when I meant no. At first, these realizations were unsettling. I felt a growing sense of unease, a creeping awareness that something needed to change, but I didn't know what or how. I was afraid to rock the boat, afraid to upset the fragile balance I had created. There wasn't a singular earth-shattering event that sparked my transformation. It was a series of quiet moments, whispers of discontent that grew into a roar I could no longer ignore. One such moment stands out vividly in my memory. I was at a gathering, surrounded by familiar faces, engaging in the usual pleasantries. Laughter filled the room, but I felt a hollowness echoing within me. The conversation turned to a topic I felt strongly about, but instead of speaking my truth, I bit my tongue. As I felt the familiar sting of self-betrayal, a quiet voice within me asked, "How long will you silence yourself?" It was a wake-up call, a gentle yet firm nudge from my soul urging me to break free from the prison of my own making. Learning to say no was a revolutionary act of self-love. For years I had equated yes with kindness and no with selfishness. I believed that saying yes to every request, every invitation, every demand was the path to being loved and accepted. But the truth was, my constant need to please was a form of self-sabotage. It kept me trapped in a cycle of exhaustion, resentment, and unfulfilled desires. The first time I uttered a full-bodied no without explanation or apology, it felt like a rebellion. In that moment, I realized that no wasn't a rejection of the other person. It was a declaration of self-respect. The journey of self-discovery isn't always comfortable. In fact, it's often messy, challenging, and downright terrifying. It requires us to confront our shadows, to heal old wounds, to shed layers of conditioning that no longer serve us. It demands that we step outside of our comfort zones and embrace the unknown with open arms. But it's in those moments of discomfort that we experience the most profound growth. As I began to peel back the layers of who I thought I was supposed to be, I uncovered parts of myself I had long buried. There were insecurities, fears, and doubts that I had suppressed for years. Facing these shadows wasn't easy, but it was necessary. As I delved deeper into my journey of self-discovery, I discovered an unexpected ally: solitude. For years, I had equated being alone with loneliness, with being unwanted, with a sense of lack. I surrounded myself with people, activities, and distractions, anything to avoid the perceived emptiness of my own company. But as I began to prioritize my own needs, I realized that solitude wasn't about being alone. It was about choosing to be present with myself. It was in the quiet moments, away from the noise and expectations of the world, that I truly began to hear my own voice. I started taking long walks in nature, listening to the rhythm of my own footsteps, feeling the wind on my face. These moments of solitude became sacred, a time for introspection, for self-reflection, for nurturing my soul. As I embraced solitude, I began to appreciate the power of silence. For so long, my life had been filled with noise, the constant chatter of my own thoughts, the demands of others, the endless distractions of the digital age. But in the absence of external noise, I discovered a profound inner stillness. At first, the silence was deafening. It amplified the insecurities, the doubts, the fears that I had been running from. But as I sat with the discomfort, I realized that these thoughts didn't have the power I had given them. They were just thoughts, fleeting and impermanent, like clouds passing through the sky. As I cultivated a deeper connection with myself, I realized that true peace wasn't about escaping from the world. It was about showing up fully present in each moment. I started paying attention to the small things, the warmth of the sun on my skin, the taste of my morning coffee, the laughter of a loved one. I became more mindful of my interactions, listening with intention, speaking with kindness, and offering my presence without judgment. I discovered that presence was a gift to myself and to those around me. It allowed me to connect more deeply, to experience life more fully, and to appreciate the beauty in the ordinary. I learned that true happiness wasn't a destination, but a way of being present in each moment. The more present I became, the less I worried about the past or the future. I found a sense of contentment in the now, a deep knowing that everything was unfolding exactly as it should. As I continued to shed the layers of who I thought I was supposed to be, a new version of myself began to emerge. This version wasn't shiny or polished, it was raw, unfiltered, and unapologetically authentic. It was the me I had kept hidden for so long, afraid of judgment and rejection. But as I stepped into my truth, I realized that not everyone would celebrate my transformation. Some people in my life struggled to reconcile the new me with the person they thought they knew. They missed the old me, the one, who was always agreeable, who put their needs first, who never rocked the boat. They didn't understand that I wasn't rejecting them. I was simply choosing myself. There were awkward conversations, misunderstandings, and moments of hurt feelings. Some relationships weathered the storm, evolving alongside me. Others, however, couldn't handle the intensity of my authenticity. The masks had fallen away, and the vulnerability of my true self was too much to bear. It was a time of both loss and liberation. The process of stepping into my authenticity created a dissonance in some of my relationships. People who were used to me playing a certain role felt threatened by my newfound assertiveness. They tried to pull me back into the old dynamics to keep me small and safe. I realized that I had a choice to make. I could shrink back into the shadows to appease others, or I could stand firm in my truth, even if it meant losing some people along the way. It was a difficult realization, but I knew that my well-being depended on choosing myself. I learned to set boundaries with love and compassion, but also with firmness. I stopped explaining myself to those who weren't ready to understand. I stopped apologizing for taking up space and for honoring my own needs. I realized that not everyone would be able to come along for the ride, and that was okay. As I navigated the challenges of being my true self, I discovered an unexpected strength. The more I embraced my authenticity, the less I craved external validation. I realized that my worthiness wasn't dependent on the opinions of others. It was an inherent part of my being. I learned to trust my own judgment, to honor my own intuition, and to speak my truth with clarity and confidence. I stopped seeking permission to be myself, and in doing so, I found a freedom I had never known before. The people who were meant to be in my life, the ones who loved me unconditionally, who celebrated my growth, and who supported my journey, drew closer. Authenticity became the foundation for deeper, more meaningful connections. The more I showed up as my true self, the more I attracted people who resonated with my energy. I built a tribe of like-minded souls who embraced vulnerability, celebrated individuality, and supported each other's growth. Part of embracing my authenticity meant letting go of relationships that no longer served me. It was a painful process, but I knew that holding on to relationships that were no longer aligned with my truth was only hurting us both. I had to trust that sometimes letting go was the greatest act of love. I grieved the loss of these relationships, but I also honored the role they played in my life. I learned from the experiences, both good and bad, and I emerged from the process stronger and wiser. As I released the relationships that no longer served me, I made space for new connections to enter my life. I opened myself up to the possibility of meeting people who would love and appreciate me for who I truly was, imperfections and all. The moment I stopped apologizing for who I was, a powerful shift occurred. It was as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders, a weight I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying. The freedom that came with embracing my authentic self was both exhilarating and terrifying. It was like stepping into a pair of shoes I was meant to wear all along. Shoes that fit perfectly despite the years I'd spent trying to squeeze into ill-fitting imitations. No longer confined by the expectations of others, I began to move through the world with a newfound sense of purpose and clarity. Decisions that once felt impossible to make became surprisingly clear. I was no longer swayed by the opinions of those who didn't truly know me. My inner compass, guiding me towards a life that felt aligned with my values and desires. This newfound empowerment wasn't about arrogance or ego. It was about honoring the truth of who I was, even the messy, imperfect parts. It was about recognizing my inherent worthiness, not as something to be earned or proven, but as an undeniable truth that resided within. As I continued to embrace my authenticity, I began to reclaim my power. The power to choose, the power to create, the power to say yes to myself without apology. This power wasn't about control or domination. It was about stepping into my agency as the author of my own life. I started setting boundaries with more confidence, knowing that saying no to what didn't serve me created space for what did. I stopped seeking external validation, finding solace and strength in the quiet affirmation of my own heart. This shift in energy was palpable. People responded to my authenticity with a newfound respect, drawn to the quiet confidence that radiated from within. I became a magnet for genuine connections, attracting those who appreciated me for who I was, not who they wanted me to be. The journey of self-discovery isn't a destination, but an ongoing process of growth, evolution, and becoming. It's about embracing the ever-changing nature of who we are, shedding old layers, and stepping into new versions of ourselves with courage and curiosity. There will be moments of doubt, of insecurity, of wanting to retreat back into the comfort of old patterns. But even in those moments, we can find solace in knowing that we are not alone. Every human being on this planet is on their own unique journey of self-discovery, navigating the complexities of life and seeking their own version of truth. The journey may be challenging at times, but the rewards are immeasurable. For in the pursuit of our authentic selves, we unlock depth of joy, fulfillment, and love that we never knew possible. If you're feeling lost, stuck, or unsure of who you truly are, know that you are not alone. The journey of self-discovery is a universal calling, a beckoning from the depths of our souls to live a life that is true to who we are. It takes courage to shed the mask we wear, to challenge the expectations that bind us, and to embrace the messy, imperfect beauty of our authentic selves. But within each of us lies an incredible capacity for growth, resilience, and transformation. The world needs your unique gifts, your authentic voice, your true self. Embrace the journey, step into your power, and allow yourself to bloom. They may say you've changed, but you know the truth. This isn't change, it's a homecoming. You've returned to yourself, to the core of who you were always meant to be. Before the world told you to be smaller, quieter, less, embrace the whispers of your soul. They are guiding you back to yourself, back to your truth, back to your power. Remember, you are not broken. You are becoming. And in this process of becoming, you give others permission to do the same. Shine your light brightly, dear one. The world needs your authentic self. If this message touched your soul, Subscribe to Subconscious Thinkers. Like this video and turn on the notification bell. We're not just sharing stories. We're building a tribe of awakened souls. If you're ready for deeper healing, manifestation work, and guided meditations, join us on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Remember, I don't owe the world my mask. I owe myself my truth. You're not broken. You're becoming. And in our next video, we'll dive into why letting go feels so painful, but is always a portal. So turn on that bell and don't miss a beat.